Hi, and welcome to Yeshiva Shem Weber. I'm Rabbi David Katz, and this is class number 9 of Psalms or Tehillim in depth. The title for the class is going to be Sod Hashem Li'irav. The secrets of God to be given over to His fearers, those who fear God. And as we're saying, this is class number 9 in the in-depth Psalms / Tehillim series of Psalm number 72 in depth. Okay, we've been doing this now. This is our 9th time. And you've been following along, and we should be, I forget which verse we're on, I'll tell you. Actually, I don't forget totally. We got up to verse number 15 last week. And there are 20 verses altogether in the psalm. And as always, the message of the psalm is this is King David's last psalm, the totality of all of his psalms put together, the final message. And that message is delivered over to his son, King Solomon. The basic idea is that King Solomon was given the message that you will be given wisdom, unprecedented wisdom. And with that wisdom, you should judge the nations. And we went through 15 verses, judge righteously, remove troubles from the world. Noble men of nobility will come and visit your shores. They'll bring gifts. You should divvy the gifts amongst the peoples, the nations, the world. The poor and the destitute, you should judge righteously, give them sustenance, give them wisdom, teach them a craft. They should be able to get around the world. Life should be good. Humanity should be articulated. Everybody should be an elevated society. The words of Torah should go forth from Zion as the Messianic king in the Solomon type of image from the temple on Zion should be testimony to the world that righteousness, wisdom, proper judgment goes out to the nations, Israel, and everybody sanctifies God. Give or take, that was the first 1 through 15 verses. And we understand that the wisdom and the judgment is to remove the oppression from the peoples and the nations. For this reason, King David is making it very clear that the nations have an eternal lot. There's always a place for the nations in the world. There's no such thing as just the Jewish people or anything like that. There's a Jewish people, there's a land of Israel, there are the islands, the nations, and all the many types of Gerim. Many types. The whole world becomes a world latent with individuals who serve God. Everybody finds their place. Everybody functions in an enlightened society. And the Torah coming from Zion is the engine that churns the world to go around and around with righteousness. And that's the basic idea, is to judge the nations righteously. Don't let them be oppressed. And don't over-favor the nations. This week, we're going to take a diversion from Psalm 72. And we'll come back strong, hopefully, next week. And if not finish, we're in the home stretch, 16 through 20. And the digression this week is very important. We need to shed light on what does it mean judgment in judging the nations. You know, a lot of the Noahide laws, when you look at it, the 7 laws, we know it carries that din right? Judge the nation's mentality. But why? Why is it so imperative death? Right? If he steals, you kill him. We know that there are more merciful routes. The ger, for example, is not capital the same way as a Noahide, Ben Noah. He comes under the same laws of Torah. Only the practical, the near idolater, the Noahide, who may even by some accounts could be an atheist, is held to a strict standard because he refuses to bring in and endorse Sinai. But there is some element to truth to a capital punishment society of Noahide. It's a way of saying, and this was given over to me by my dear friend of mine who's a ger. This is his view, and I fully endorse this view. The 7 laws functions as, if I have mine down, right, I'm good in all 7. And let's say stealing, obviously, as all 7 come about, I'm good there too, right? And this person against me, not physically against, just physically is standing against me, I realize there's something wrong here. And it's my innate department of judging this guy. Not, I'm judging you, I am better than you. It's a sensory device. Something triggers me. This guy is transgressing, stealing. In spiritual energy, it comes out very sensitive. When you're not on the same page, people are very sensitive to this. If a man is chauvinistic, the female will notice. If the woman is, let's say, against men, he'll notice. And then we start judging. And we lose track of our good intentions. And we make it personal. And we shroud it in klippah, veils of evil. We may argue, and it comes out as a fight. And then, as always, only Hashem is the true judge. So the guy who might be a little bit inclined to steal, as King David says in Psalms often, when you do evil, you let people know. So it's like, hey, how's it going? And hey, all right, how are you? And he said, he's just wanting to tell you how he's going to steal. Hey, I got a great deal on this house. Really? That's great. He says, yeah, my uncle knows the guy, and he got the deal, and we got the tax write-off, and what a great deal. I had to tell you how great of a deal this was. I know that you're into real estate, and you're into houses and stuff, so I had to tell you this deal. So he's trying to make it like he's not into shady stuff. But let's say the guarded Ben Noah, of 9, or 7, 9 comes later, of 7, he's going to sense something. Is this really what we need to talk about? How you're getting, kind of ripping off the government and taxes and of the house? Can we talk about God's providence or tzedakah or one of the positive elements antithetical to the punishments of 7? So you come out right away and you start putting God in a bad light. Maybe not overtly, but in a way that you say, hey, does this guy believe in God? So there's a natural built-in system and sensory device that we judge each other, not because I am looking at you and I'm going to come down on you. It's an observation. And the way sin works, even in thought or the heart, it's glaring. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but notice you had a kick me sign on your back. It's that glaring. That's why the word in Hebrew for female wisdom is arum, right? The snake of the Garden of Eden was arum. That's how he was able to trick her. It's also the same word for naked. See, when you have your wisdom naked, that's a problem, because real wisdom, like a woman's modesty, is covered up. Now, this concept of judging, Solomon judging the nations, the peoples, and the 7 laws of Noah. Let's get rid of the connotation of judging as, I'm looking at you, I know what you do, I'm telling, not that. Moses was perhaps the greatest judge that ever lived, under these definitions, and here's why. God wished to deliver the Torah to the world, and he did not say, do I have any takers? And a guy named Moses raises his hand. He says, yeah, I like you, Moses. You're the guy that's going to deliver the Torah. No. God looked in the vessels of man. And within Moses, God looked and saw none other than God. God goes into the vessel of Moses and says to himself, look at this. When I look in Moses, I see myself. Moses gazes upon me. He sees objective reality. The secrets of Hashem are to those that fear him, says King David in Psalms. Espiklaria, the clear lens, that's judgment. If you see a red painting on a wall, and you look at it, and God is in everybody's vessel, and your eyes report back to God, God, I see a red painting on a wall. You just judged correctly. God says, that's right. That is a red painting on a wall. Thank you for noticing my world. And all day long, this is what we do. We all day long. And you're placed in your sector of the universe based on your job of gazing upon God's creation to judge it. And the final rendering of judgment is not your business, even if God shares it with you. You simply deliver the facts to God, and he may or he may not give you the answer. If you do receive the answer, it is your job to ascertain if that was your imagination or if God shared it with you. Did God give you a prophetic experience, or did your own wicked behavior lead you astray and you've judged on your own extra volition, i.e. like the snake did in the Garden of Eden with the Samech Mem, angel of destruction, tempting Adam and Eve to sin? You gaze upon reality. All day long you judge and you judge and you judge and you judge and you judge. And we marry each other under these little micro weddings. I buy milk and eggs at the store. I'm now judging you. Are you a nice cashier? And she says, is he a nice customer? Judging. And the male-female is the most sensitive to judge. We jump in that arena. And we think, when we jump in that arena, that it's because of personal desire. And that's our test of the evil inclination. Because we're very easily led to believe that is our intentions. But when you get underneath of all that, you realize we just judge. We just judge. But the opposite gender draws a stronger pull of attraction to judge. Otherwise, society would split. There would be no fruitful and multiply. The society must merge and converge in clashes every day. Just the concept of the male-female, the Ger and the Jew, whatever, there's always a male-female. Yesod Malchus in Kabbalah. And then there's the literal male-female. But there's always, the alpha and the follower. There's always this role in society that creates a judgment scenario. It's what we were created to do. And you're employed to go in your sector of the universe and just be the eyes of God. Which is why the eyes are in this respect, the most important part of the body. That is your toll given in the element of judgment. Now you can say your hands make you a living, your feet get you around. Every part of our body is important, but the eyes are the instruments of judgment. Not even your brain, not your heart, just your eyes. Which is why, according to the eyes, we're all technically blind. Physically, we all have some sort of vision or eye blemish, which relieves us of duty of the Torah in the ultimate judgment sense. Kind of like receiving the Torah at Sinai. God had to hold the mountain over your head. You're not technically involved. But we do. We participate. We play. And the job is to rectify and become aware that we're obligated. If you perfected your eyes of judgment, you would realize you are now obligated in everything. And that was the means of which you achieved greatness in judgment, was because you are obligated, even if you're self-obligated. And we are self-obligated. If a guy breaks Shabbos, does he drop dead? No. He's expected to bring an offering to the temple, and if he doesn't bring it, nobody really goes after him unless there's witnesses. But the Torah says he has to bring the offering, but it's all from free will. He chooses to bring God's light into the world, or he doesn't. Then there's the idea you'll either pay for your sin, or you will be rewarded for serving God. King Solomon says, no man is so great that he doesn't sin. So we're all playing the game with God because of a very simple premise of kavod Elokim, of giving honor to the name of God of judgment, Elokim, of revelation and of salvation. We honor God. Play along. Technically, do you have to play along? You might convince yourself no, but you're stuck. Because deep down, we all belong to God. That's really the ultimate revelation. You can't help but to be interested in God's divinity. And you'll say, but I'm not interested in religion, or Shabbos, or Kashrus. But what do you do all day long? You judge, you judge, you judge. And Klippa loves to judge. Right? How do you like your steak? Medium rare. Oh, you judge. You like it a certain way. And when it comes overcooked, are you going to judge? You better believe you will. We cannot help but be invested in God's plan and game and pastime. Divinity is just that. It's divine. And we are more than interested in divinity. We just have lost touch with how to identify with divinity. So God doesn't have to lasso you in with say, you're commanded or else. You already are. Your job is to realize that you are. Very fine line. Very fine line. The difference between the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Thus, King Solomon is told by King David, go judge the nations. Check it out. See what they're doing. And let it be reported back to God. And this is life as we know it. And when you observe society and God in motion, what King David is telling King Solomon, that is going to be your greatest wisdom. Being human, letting people live, watching without bias or limitation, simply letting God be the judge, and letting God give you the knowledge of the judgment as he sees fit to. Your job is to understand the prophetic experience. The true judgments become your storage facility of Torah, which allows you to have divine insight, knowledge, and revelation of God. God simply enjoys watching himself in motion. That is the secret of creation. He created the world to watch himself in creation. Watch himself create creation. Watch the creation keep creating. Now let's go ahead and jump into Psalm 82, which really sheds light on our theme Psalm 72. We say in 82 that God is the true judge. We say, God, I have an evil inclination. Sometimes I take a little bit too much of the judgment. I have put my own spin on it. And that's not right. And we know that you're the true judge. Right? When you watch us, you're not saying, oh, look, there's Davo doing his little, whatever he does again. You understand the heart of man and our intentions. And you don't judge with oppression the destitute, the poor, the lowly, the orphan, the widow, the ger, the Levite. And the Torah is filled with all these people that the oppressors will gladly call lowlifes. The widow, the orphan, the ger, the Levite. And they're oppressed. Each one in his unique little inferno is oppressed. The job of the judge of man is to gaze on the reality. Wherever you're stationed, whether it be on a curb, behind a desk, in front of the internet, your job is to judge with objective reality. Don't put your little spin on it and your opinion. Understand through the mitzvot, the commandments, and the Torah itself, the absolute truth. Don't render it tzedek, just, but rather tzedakah, be charitable. Don't say just. If he took $5 from him, then he should pay it back. Maybe he can't. Maybe he needs a week. Tzedakah. The standard that you judge righteously. Let's say you really do judge well. You are giving God a real-time running stream of reality exactly as it's supposed to be. You judge with favor and with merit. The way that Mazel works is you will be judged by that same standard. They now are coming to you as if it's a chutzpah, right? The people that you're judging, so to speak. And they're coming to you saying, who are you? We're holding you to the standard you judged us. Now, granted, you didn't say that this person should be the Gadol. You simply said, one person can see a sin. I see a guy struggling to survive, God. I don't really see that big of a problem here. God says, way to go. That's right. This guy is actually trying very hard. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Then this guy turns around and says, who do you think you are? You say, come again? I judged you righteously. And he spits at you and says, who do you think you are? The test is, now that you were able to judge righteously, you will be judged righteously. And it's only a test. It is only a test. Because they sense those little spiritual signs that we said. This guy is a righteous soul, the person says. And he wears a Metallica t-shirt? How could that be? How in the world can you be righteous, which I sense, and you wear a Metallica t-shirt? It's only a test. The test comes at you so that you should know how righteous you are. And you have to defend yourself. Because now you're in trouble. Why does a righteous person wear a Metallica t-shirt? Could it be that I'm really not on the level I think I am? Maybe I'm a pretender? And a fake and a phony? I mean, they say you shouldn't listen to Metallica on the level that I'm on. And you think about it, wait, what are you doing to me? Get out of my head. Do you know why I wore this Metallica t-shirt? He says, no, it's pretty weird that you're wearing that. And you give your true intention, good intention story. Your brother is the manager for the group. You are exercising at the kosher gym. It's a t-shirt. And you just came out of the gym to do a mitzvah. And you have on your shirt. Oh. I thought you were deceiving me. No, I wasn't. And I'm allowed to wear a Metallica t-shirt in this situation. We're going to explain this point at the end of the class, so don't give up on that point. But that's the idea, is the judgment will come back, and you will pass it, but you will have to fight and scratch to achieve your level. So if you're being judged upon as poorly, as a poor judgment, right, you're not really such a hard worker. So you're not going to make the other guy work so hard. Right? He's saying, this guy's a nevich. Look at this guy. And he says, yeah, I know. And his soul, he says that. And he says, hey, hey, do you know what the square root of whatever is? You say, no. He says, oh, man, you don't even know that? I got that right. You say, oh, wow, you got me. He says, I know, I got you. You're not as smart as you look, you know? So it's a very poor judgment coming back. All the blends of society, from klippa to impurity to righteousness, everyone will find their level in the way they're dishing out the judgment and the way the judgment comes back upon them, and it should be the same. The psalm goes on, why did the flood happen? The answer is because of judgment. When you have poor judgment, God routed judgment through creation. And we're seeing it in our day. How would you know if America had really poor judgment? You would know it because Stephen Hawking would develop the technology to identify a wormhole just outside the Earth. And he would say, hey, if we do a proton blast of particle streaming matter at the jet stream propulsion of 25 trillion Kelvin, it'll propel the Earth through the wormhole and we can go to another galaxy. And they'll do it and the Earth will be threatening to explode. Right, that's how the flood of Noah happened. Judgment is routed in the earth. So as the judgments disintegrate in quality and in ethical value, the earth becomes threatened. Anybody hear of Fukushima? It happened. Fish are dying. The West Coast is having wash-ups every day because the judgment of the earth is floundering. The spirit of the snake, the venom of the snake is in man. God says, I thought you were like me, knowing good and evil. The snake's idea was, hey, judge. Be aware of your poorest judgment. What do you think this is? And you say, I think it's an apple. He said, an apple? It's not an apple. Don't you know a cucumber when you see one? Oh, man, am I so dumb? I don't know the difference between an apple and a cucumber? And Adam suffered that fate. Poor judgment. Poor judgment in knowing the mitzvot, the commandments. Adam never knew it hit him. The way of man was to find death. He found in the impure worlds. And the impurity of that mistake goes on and on and on until there's an Erev Rav, the mixed multitude that existed from the time of Adam until today. Those who judge horribly for fun. That's how they write code, like a virus. And their favorite activity is to cut off the goyim from the world, the nations from the world. Since there's a Judaism and a Sinai, the Erev Rav become routed through Judaism, and they say, the world should be only Jewish. Get rid of the judgment. Who needs judgment? They see it like a video game, right? Eliminate the enemy. Because that's what holiness wants to do also. Eliminate the enemy. So if there are no nations to judge, we're free. No more judgment. Just live with God. No need to judge. Just bask and gaze at my crown on my head, for he who eliminated the enemy. So only one little problem. God happens to love the goyim. In fact, he takes quite delight in his judgment skills, in the purity he puts in the spirit of the nations. He takes them for his portion, says King David. Judges them to say, I only know that I am a true judge as being God by you, the nations. As I judge you, I realize I am the true judge. Without the nations, there's no creation. There's nothing for God to look at. The whole point of creating, in this respect, was for there to be something to look at. So what the psalmist is saying is, God, get rid of these guys. We don't want people who just make bad judgment for fun. And what do you think of that guy? Oh, that guy? Wow. You should hear about that guy. I'll tell you all about him. You know what he did on Tuesday? That guy, whoa, he has a funny story. Wow. Let me tell you the sins that guy does. Now, the irony is, underneath that little arrogant guy, there is a good intention. He'll never tell you because he's way too embarrassed to share his soul. It would go something like this. You know, I just want to really help the world. We're stuck in this condition of humanity, and I just want to help. Right? It might not be the deepest of all intentions, but it is good intention. But it's so shallow and so bearing of soul, he mocks it and puts it in a little cubicle called fascism, racism, sexism. He mocks everybody. He likes his own little backyard as he thinks he's doing the world a favor. He really does. And to get his favor across, he'll just be as dumb and silly and arrogant about it as possible. And we say, God, get rid of these guys. It's just, it defeats the purpose of what a God-fearing person is judging for. We're not judging for our own needs and desires, as if we're the true judge. We're judging for you to delight in looking at your creation. I'm trying to get out of the way. I'm trying to give you my eyeballs and get out of the way. Now, that's judgment. Big difference between, oh, I am judging you. I am a Jew and you are of the nations. Let me gaze upon you and render judgment. Hopefully you will die a miserable death as being a failure to cooperate in the 7 laws of Noah. That's not what's going on. And the Noahide of the 7 laws is not walking around saying, well, I keep the 7 laws perfectly. Let me see how you're flawed. Not it. We're here to simply open our eyes, let God gaze through, and let the commandments speak to God. And if we receive word from God, it is a word of Torah for us to sanctify and express and better mankind. You never actually passed one iota of judgment. You simply allowed the true judge, God, to judge. You lended your eyes, you have your wisdom that God gave you, and you went around the world facilitating judgment. You allowed the judgment process to happen, but you were never interested in the actual judgment conclusion. Psak din. Not your business. You gave testimony, which is Psalm number 81. They placed testimony for Joseph. Joseph here is spelled with the hay, sanctifying God's name. Edus be Yosef Samo. Very famous psalm, number 81. It's all about giving testimony. The judgment is really the witness and testimony. And Joseph was the master of that program. More than anyone has ever lived. So Moses had the, let's say, the eyes, Joseph had the program, and David had the way we're going to finish the class. Those three, you really don't get higher in the scheme of things of creation than them. Let's just fly through Psalm 81 to figure out why we're talking about 81 and how 81 bleeds into 82. Psalm 81 starts with saying you need to blast the shofar, the ram's horn of God. Right? God gives you that prophetic insight, the rendered judgment. Your job is to announce it. But not to say Lashon Hara, say, hey, look at this guy. Look what he did. Everybody. No. And in fact, it may even be your salvation, buddy. God just redeemed you. It's your ram's horn. It's your Rosh Hashanah. You just got judged and you just got liberated. So everyone's saying you're wrong, you're dumb, you're slow, you're a this, you're a that. And you're saying, man, am I really? I thought I had good intentions. What's going on? They're all against me. And whoa, God just brought me out of here. And you say, you're all wrong. I got this, this is true. God just redeemed me with the might and awesome, miraculous ways of God. And your job is to sanctify that with words of Torah. You just got dragged out of the pit. It's your Rosh Hashanah. You were judged. The world went through judgment. They were judging you. You were the sheep passing before God. The world was like God judging you. And you came bursting out of your exodus from Egypt. Your hands are liberated. You found the intimacy with God, the word yedid. If you break it in two, it's yad, the hands. Instead of being you're laboring and you're there, you're like a mule. Your hands are all of a sudden liberated. As Moses stood with his hands held high in prayer. There's your two hands again. And Hashem answers you. You called out to God. He answers. Because by definition, you are going to have called out to God under these circumstances. And we're going to explain the circumstances and the process at the end, as I mentioned. But the way that you're going to get redeemed, whether in the micro or macro, it's all one fractal kernel. That which is your salvation, that will be your demise. You may have spoken Lashon Hara well. Ironically, right? But that will be your demise, obviously. The thing that saves you is the very thing that kills you. But when you are saved and you're brought out, you're redeemed. Instead of using the word saved, it's the ultimate help. God really helped you out. He gave you mazel. He gave you hashgacha pratis, divine favor and blessing. You say, thank God. He says, well, hey. You need right now, as I brought you out, you're saying everyone how, hey, God's awesome. Everybody, look what he did. You guys were yelling at me and judging me, and it turns out this is true, and God was with me. God says, stop. Listen to my voice, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Listen to my voice. Right now is the crucial time. Right, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grave, Rishon ben Levi goes asking Elijah, where's the Messiah? He says, over there. Go ask him when he's coming. He says, when are you coming? He says, right now, today, if you would hear my voice. The Messiah's voice is aligned with God's voice. God says, if you don't listen to my voice, at the moment that I help you the most, and bring you out, and vindicate you, you have two choices. Anachi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem, your God. If you can't say that, then I guess you have other gods. You can't say Lo Yeh Elohim Acherim. You have other gods. And who are the other gods you have? This is a very painful truth. You either sanctify God's name, which Moses found out in the desert what happens when you don't. You either sanctify God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem Hu Elokim, or you believe in the God of the Nachrim, Yeshu. The entire idolatrous world confined to one God, the God of Christianity, the Messiah of Islam. That is your God. And everybody in mankind from Adam until today has fallen victim to this idolatry. The time that Hashem is worshipped openly will be the time of the revelation of the Messiah and the full redemption. Now the Torah is written about God. And mankind is trying to eliminate klippa and impurity and false gods. You might not call it the God by that name, but through the Erev Rav code writing virus, bringing that God into judgment, we see God the judge as a false God. We say, oh, that guy should have got this. I should really have this. Well, says who? The God of Jacob doesn't know that. Who says you deserve this? Who says he deserves that? That is an idolatrous religion you're talking about. If you want to get into opinions, well, we got lots of opinions. No shortage of opinions here. But God, as the true judge, well, he judges the truth. Our job is to bring that light into our lives. And that's what the Messiah revelation is. To recognize the Messiah and his voice align with the voice of God. It's here. It's always. Did you just be quiet and listen to it once you come out of jail? And you're destined to come out of jail over and over and over again. Which, again, I will go over at the end of class. And you know what? If you don't listen, God says, Song of Songs is written to testify. Jewish people, you'll go against the nations. You'll live amongst them, and it will not be fun. You're going to go by your own counsel instead of the counsel of God. You're going to go in your own ways instead of the ways of God. And you're going to turn to idolatrous beliefs of judgment. Your eyes will become perverted. And you'll see things you're not supposed to see. But if you go in God's ways, your hands are liberated. His hands are liberated. Your hands merge with God's hands. God's enemies are delivered into your hands. Thus, your enemies are gone. David didn't beat Goliath with a sling and rocks. He beat them with his liberated hands. Moses' hands held in prayer. If you can do that, just align with God through judgment, endless bounty will come to the world. The rock will drip of its honey. That's the program of judgment that King David is talking about in Psalm 72. Through the testimony and witness program of 81 and 82 in Psalms. Now, what in the world are we talking about? What's the DNA here? The Zohar ends. So we finished the Zohar at Rabbi Shimon today for Lag BaOmer. In the end of days, the B'nai Reuven, the Gerim of the world, global Zionism, the nations erupting on the land of Israel, demanding a Messiah, proclaiming that they have the remnant of the firstborn rights of Reuven and the priesthood and the kingship. Only the Moshiach can outwrite their code. And it's because Reuven lives and he shouldn't die. That expression by Moses' blessing is the end of the Torah, which, by the way, yields the gematria of our year, 774. Why Reuven? Why do the nations merge with Reuven? And this global arousal and ignition in the end of days. Because Reuven threw Yosef in a pit for good intentions to save him later. But because he had good intentions that were enclosed in something a little bit dodgy, he had troubles and he mounted his father's bed. It came on him a bad mazel. But in the end, Moses says Reuven should live and not die. Rabbi Eliezer, against the rabbis, you may have heard the story. He was right, they were wrong. He asked for miracles, he got them. They put him in cherem. I don't know how to say cherem in English. What's that called when you, excommunication. And the Zohar said he was right. He had good intentions. He engaged in something not so good. He was placed in excommunication. And in the end, they all said he was right. He had the soul of Reuven in him. What I just told you is literally the secret of Yud K Vav K of the entire Torah, secret of judgment. Because what happens is we're all redeemed all the time, every day. Some bigger, some smaller. And that redemption is the same redemption that Joseph represents of coming out of Egypt. When he is to blast that shofar and speak the words of Torah and listen to the voice of God and free his hands and liberate. Drop idolatrous beliefs of judgment, sanctify God's name, look upon the nations with favor and proper judgment or observation, witness and testimony, as Joseph did in Egypt. Align with the hand of God, knock the enemies down, and bring surplus onto the world. Here's the fractal code. Ready? A man, let's take man for example, has good intentions. Everybody has good intentions. Adam had good intentions. But God places the truth in compromise. The only way we can sanctify truth in a way that answers the eternal question, why do the righteous suffer, is to go into Klippa, into something less true, to bring it out. We must lower ourselves to fulfill our good intentions. Does my shirt look okay? Now the answer is no, it doesn't. What am I going to say to you? No, it doesn't? I have to lie. I have to twist, hint. You know, maybe you should try the other shirt. It really goes good with those pants. You just lied. You just lied. According to the absolute judgment law, you just lied. But you had very good intentions. And you're going to take it over the head. You're going to get punished. Just like Reuben had good intentions, placed Joseph in the pit to come back and get him later. Good intentions causing less good results. You're going to mount your father's bed. You're busted. You're dead. You just died. You will have it come back on you. But I was good intentioned. Why are you picking on me? I was good intentioned. God comes and says, you're right. You were good intentioned. That's how life works. You're redeemed. Everyone will know. Now, did you get redeemed in light or darkness? That's your job. To get your redemption out of darkness. Don't have it come as somebody having a half joke with you. Well, it's a good thing I didn't wear that shirt. And then they laugh it off. Yeah, that shirt was no good. I'll tell you, that was a dumb shirt. That's not where you want your redemption. You want it to be literally blazing awesome. The whole world says, whoa, he was right. Good intention, in compromise, you get beat up, and God redeems you. And this is for everybody on the planet. Most people here, not good intention, dodgy guy way dodgy guy. I'm going to beat the crap out of this guy. Wow, look at that. Somehow God showed I was wrong. This guy's right. And then we realize the end, where this guy started, I guess he had good intentions after all. I feel bad. Let me go apologize. And that was that judgment program that comes back on you. And all day long, we fight. Even if it's sweet, we fight. Hey, let's go to the store. I got to buy sugar. And eggs. Oh, how did I forget the eggs? So stupid. Punishment. Good intention. Dodgy situation. You got punished. And when you bought the eggs, look at that. Next to the eggs is the cinnamon. And you were redeemed. Hey, the cinnamon, we forgot to write that down. Wow, good thing we mentioned that. Everyone gets along. All day long, we live out this Yud-K, Vav-K. These little flowery, blossomy lifestyles in a hypnotic trance. We believe we're good. We don't care that much. We get beat up, and God redeems us, and we just go back into our rut. The trick is when you get beat up, beat somebody else up that's beating you up. But don't beat them up to be mean. Align yourself with the voice of God. God's going to beat him up whether you like it or not. His cousin Steve just died yesterday. And you said, oh, at least my name's not Steve. You had no idea. He thinks that you know his cousin's name is Steve. He says, could you be any more insensitive? My cousin just died. But he keeps it to himself. And all of a sudden, a month later, he blows up at you. You never care about me and my family. You're saying, what? Huh? Who? And you never got it. But if you know that you're being beat up, and you know that you're going to be beating him up, just do it, but nicely. To allow him to have the opportunity to repent out of darkness and klippa in the realm of light so he can get his redemption and say, thank God. Speak words of Torah and bring light to the world and to the nations and drop the false judgment system and sanctify God in his Messiah. In case you weren't paying attention, that is the fractal code of the entire Torah. Call it Job, Adam, Hannah, Abraham, Moses, Joshua, Joseph, David, you name him, that code exists, and it should be very apparent to you that is what we live. Over and over and over again. The task at hand is simply unite with God in the fabric of existence of Yud-Keh Vav-Keh, sanctify his name, reject idolatry, bring bounty to the world, remove idolatry, bring good judgment to the world, simply to gaze on the creation through God's eyes in good light, bringing nachas ruach to God, he who created the creation for his own desire. Thank you very much. See you next week for the continuation in Tehillim, class number 10, picking up from towards the end.